Okay, here in part 4, we're picking up in the rec room where we've taken the Tormat selector unit off the bench back down to the rec room, and we've connected it up, and we're going to try to do a little testing. All right, well, as you can see, we've got it laid out on the table for testing. We got everything hooked up. We've cleaned all the contacts, deoxed everything, deoxed it on all the switches. We're ready to try it. We've already plugged it in once because if it blew up, I wanted my hands free, didn't want to be videoing. So I've got Dad holding the camera for me, just using our phone this time, so I know it's not great video, but so let me show you what we've found, what we've got going on. Okay, if we power it up, we got to wait for it to warm up, obviously. So let's give it just a minute. We do not have the amp plugged into the TSU. We're not powering all that up. We're just trying to get the mechanicals working. Let me get the RCA plug plugged in here. We had it out. Not real happy. The plug's pretty ratty. I think we're gonna, first thing we're gonna do before we do anything more troubleshooting is we're gonna change that out. But we're gonna be knocking off for the day. We've been at this all afternoon. So everything's hooked up, everything's cleaned, everything's ready to go. This should be warmed up enough now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop a quarter in. And if you watch over here, you'll see the selection light come on telling me that I can make a selection. So here we go. Okay. Don't worry. And I dropped the quarter, but we'll find it. Okay, so it's ready for a selection. What happens is when we make a selection, everything goes good, locks in, and takes off scanning. And it does its 2 scans, comes to a stop. So we know the control solenoids under the TSU are working, all that, does the twin scans, but doesn't stop on a record, doesn't pick up a record. So we've got some kind of Tormat. I don't know if we've got a not writing or whether it's not reading properly. I'm kind of thinking we're going to change this RCA jack out because it looks terrible. But I'm worried that, not worried, I think we might have the contact issue with the pins on the Tormat unit, very common issue. We're probably looking at something like that. We could be looking at some weak 205s tubes or something, but they test really good. So I'm not going to go with that. That's going to be like the last thing I think the problem is. So anyway, we are making headway. We are getting some action going. We're to the point now we just can't seem to get a write or a read into the Tormat to get it to stop and play. We know the mechanism's working. As you know before, I could throw it into play and pick up a record and play a record. We just didn't have any audio coming out of it. So now we just got to get it to where it'll make the selection. So that's going to be it for this video probably. Unless I edit and figure out that it's not that long, and then I'll add on what we do tomorrow. But we're going to knock off for today. We're going to pick up tomorrow. We're going to start working on diagnosing the Tormat problem and see if we can figure out how to get this thing to pick up a record. So stay with us. We'll pick up tomorrow. See you a little later. Okay, we did the continuity test on the detent switch, and what we found was it was not opening. It stayed closed all the time. So we've pulled it loose here from down in here, and it's nasty. I mean, it's like the rest of them. It's pretty dirty and stuff. So we're going to take it to the ultrasonic machine and clean it. You can see the mechanism down here, if I can get right. This little bullet looking thing, so I can move it in and out. It follows that little roller cam on that gear at the bottom. And so as this moves, see how it pushes, it's moving out. Hopefully I can get it in view of you there. It's moving out. It pushes the switch closed. But I'm not sure the switch is ever closing. So as bad as the contacts look. So what we're going to do is we're going to take and cut these wires loose, go clean this in the ultrasonic cleaner good, get it in good shape, put everything back. Okay, well, I wish I could report some great news, but I can't. Let me work my way over here. We did, see if I can grab a flashlight for you. We did get that switch out and clean it. Let me tell you something. You can't clean things like you can with ultrasonic cleaners. That thing, amazing what it did to that switch. That switch looks like brand new, but we've got that done. We were getting the test correctly. We followed the test and we could hand turn this and get ground and open. So all of that looked good. Still nothing working. Still ended up the same spot. Been doing a lot more troubleshooting. Ended up over here pulling tubes on the receiver, on the Tormax selector unit again. Back in after I've done all these capacitors. Back in here, start testing. And what we're finding is there's a socket right here. We're getting like the 96 volt range, but we're not getting this pin 2 doesn't have high voltage on it. I was able to track down on the transformer. Move that light away, it's not helping. I was able to go through and find the 325 volt winding here and trace it out and get 300, a little more than 325. It was a little high, but I was able to pick up that voltage on the Simpson. And we are getting that. We are generating high voltage out of the transformer. And it is showing up on like the 6X4 tube is seeing it. But for some reason, that's not all translating around and ending up here at this plug. So that very well may be what our issue is. So anyway, that's where we are. It's late in the day. It's after 5. And time to knock off. And we'll have to come back and pick up on it and see where we get tomorrow. So, all right, we're still on the jukebox. Started doing a little diagnostic down in the rec room and found I was missing a voltage somewhere. Realized it'd be a lot easier to do this on the bench. So here we are. What I want to show you is, over here on the schematic, I want to show you what we were running into. If you go up here to this connector, right here, this dashed line here is the pulse amplifier. And the pulse amplifier is, and I'm going to show it to you here in a second, it's this device right here, okay? It plugs in like a tube through a tube socket on the bottom, has a tube on it, and it is literally just an amplifier module. It's the part with the little RCA jack on the top that runs over to the Tormax unit. I started probing voltages there to make sure we had what we need. So what you're looking at here is this socket right here is on the chassis. This socket right here is on the removable pulse amplifier that I just showed you. So I started probing here, looking for the right voltages, and I wasn't getting anything here. And I expected to see high voltage at this spot. This would be your plate voltage for your 12AX7. So having no voltage here, obviously there's an issue. That leads down to having no voltage here for your trip 2050. So this could definitely explain why we're not tripping our unit. I started following back and realizing this comes off of over here by the 6X4. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and power up, and I'm on the isolation transformer, of course. I want to go ahead and power up. I've got my negative probe of my meter hooked up to the chassis. I'm on 500 volts. We're going to be probing for negative voltage. And right here on the, if you can see on the manual, it says we should have about 400 volts, negative 400 volts, right here on pin 6 of the 6X4. So I want to see if I have that. I will take a screenshot of this so I can bring it up when I want to, but I'm going to move the camera. There'll be a cut here, and I'll move the camera and set it up where you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and I'm back. What we're looking at is this socket right here. If you can see it, is the 6X4 socket, the most out to the edge of the chassis one. And right here, this square section here, rectangle section I mean, with the pin socket, kind of an odd pin socket, or tube socket, but right here is that connector for the pulse amplifier. And this is my socket for the 2050 trigger. What we're going to be looking for is we're going to be looking for that 400 volts that we were seeing in the manual at the pin 6 of the 6X4. Let me go ahead, and I'm powered up now. Camera's going to be right where I'm going to bump it easily. I'm sorry. Okay, so I'm going to probe pin 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, And this will be 6 right here. So I'm going to carefully get in here and probe. And if you can see my meter, I've got minus 433 volts. So we definitely got the high voltage that we're looking for. Now the question comes in, why isn't it making its way over to that socket? Let me pop up and show you the schematic again. Right here's where we are. And if you look, you can see that the power should go through a R518, which is a 3300 ohm resistor. So if I look here, come over here and find that probe, I've got a wire that runs over to this terminal right here, which this big power resistor is connected to. So I should have my voltage there. It's just a wire run. So let's see, what do we got? I do. I have the 433 volts right there. So of course comes up that resistor, 433, to this side hopefully, unless this resistor is open. 358 makes sense. Got a big resistor there. That makes total sense. Comes down and connects to this terminal strip right here. So I should see that same reduced voltage here if I can get on it. And there it is, 360 volts basically. This capacitor is connected to it too. There it is. Now, if you look careful, you'll see that this terminal that this resistor goes in and this capacitor hooks to has a, if you can make it out right here, has a piece of bare wire running over to jumper here. So that brings it over here. These two terminals are the same thing. This resistor here hooks to that terminal. So let's go back to our schematic here and take a look. You can see here that we just came across this R518. That was the big power resistor over to a terminal. And that terminal had a capacitor coming off of it. That's going to be this one right here. That'll be a C515. And then it also has another resistor, which is a 56K. I looked it up already, coming off of it. This voltage that we're tracing down should go through that 56K and then run over to that socket. So let's find this 56K. We know that, here we are. We know we don't have a 56K there, but we see it comes over this terminal also. This could be our 56K here. There's the voltage there. What do we have here? Not getting anything there. So that's a little interesting, but the problem I have is when I look, there's nowhere from this terminal running over there. So let's go back and look here. Okay, we do, wait a minute, we've got a wire running over to that jack and to that pin right here. And here's a resistor. So that resistor is going to have to be the R511. So we know we have voltage here. And if we go over and check this pin, I'm finding that right here's where I was not. And I'm not getting doodly squat. Look at that. So the only thing is this wire and this resistor right here. So let's measure this resistor right here. Okay, we've got our 300 and almost 60 volts right there. Do we have it on this side of this resistor? No. That can't be right. So this resistor is apparently open. So I think we just found why we're not getting the voltage. This resistor hiding under this wire right here, apparently open. So I'm going to kill power. Give time for the capacitors to bleed down. I'm going to set up for resistance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take that resistor out and test it. There we go. All right, let me grab my tweezers and get that little piece of junk out of my unit. Throw it in the garbage can. Okay, now let's do this. Let's disconnect my probe over here from ground. Let's switch over to resistance. And let's see if I can get continuity through here. It says 39. Interesting. Okay, so what happens if I leave it like that now, switch back to voltage, power it up, and we check for voltage on there. Let's put a clip on this. Now it acts like I got it. What is going on? That seems weird. Why would I all of a sudden have voltage there? I didn't have it before. do this. Let's make this thing safe. We'll come back and we'll see what we can figure out. Okay, so it turned out that this resistor right here, hiding behind this wire right here, that I thought was open, wasn't actually open. Turned out this capacitor right here was in backwards. I messed up. This was the last capacitor I put in, and I managed to get it flipped around. So what it was doing is it wasn't blocking the DC, and what it was doing is it was with this high resistance resistor here, the current was flowing through it, so it was pulling this line down to nothing, making it look like this was open. I had high voltage here, nothing over here. It really did have high voltage here, except it was being sapped off. So I fixed that problem. Now remember when I was testing this resistor over here, and I said, actually it didn't look like that. Let me find the resistor. Here it is. It looked like this before. This was the resistor that was in there. Remember when I was testing it, I said maybe this is our 56K, and then I figured out no, that this was over here. Well, if you remember, I had nothing over here on this side, and I thought, well, that's odd. So I thought I'd go back and check that. And that one, honest to goodness, was open. I pulled it off. It's a 1 meg, and it's wide open. I replaced it with a 1 meg, 1 watt that I had here, and this one's good, measuring a meg almost dead on. The other one, I can get nothing but open circuit measurements on, overload measurements. I'm way out of scale of any meter. I tried different meters to see if maybe it was just really high, but no, it's open. So that's kind of surprising. So anyway, we've got that swapped out now. I went through and looked at the different resistors, looking for resistance through them, and I was finding reasonable resistances that I was expecting. So I'm kind of feeling good about where we are right now. So at this point, I would say we're ready to take this back down to the rec room, hook it back up, and cross our fingers a little bit, see what happens, see if we get what we expect. I'm getting the voltages here now that I want. I'm getting the voltage over on the 2050 trip 2. I measured the socket voltages here based off of what they were supposed to be. I had a list of voltages that you should expect, and with the amplifier plugged in, I'm getting all those dead on. Very happy about that. I think that's gonna get us moving in the right direction. So with that, I think we're going to end this video, and we'll pick up in the next video down at the rec room. We'll hook this thing up and see what we find. I'll see you in a couple days. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you're enjoying the content. Hope you're learning something. Hoping it's being a little bit entertaining. And if you find any of those to be true, do me a favor, hit the subscribe button. I know it's a lot to ask, but it's free. It's just a click of a button, and it sure does help the channel so much. Little channels like mine need all the help we can get. We have to ask our viewers to help us out. So if you'll do that, if you like the video, hit the like button. That makes sure it shows up in other people's feeds. And hit the notify bell if you want to see more videos from me, and that'll make sure that you always know when my new videos come out. Thanks a lot. See you next time.